All right, my friend, we are live.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for coming on. This is Dr. David Rosenthal, an amazing functional neurologist. We met in at IFNR, and we I've been I mean we just created such an awesome relationship in the past couple months, and I appreciate you so much, your perspective of things and your understanding of neurology, especially when it comes to the neurocognitive aspect of things. So, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing good. Things
Nice,
are going really solid,
nice.
especially in some challenging times for a lot of different people. But I think it's really important during these times that, you've done a really great job bringing on some really great experts like Dr. Vasquez and all these other people. And you've done a fantastic job in really connecting these different groups of people. So I think that the more people that you can get on that have got different perspectives outside of just, the common fields, and start asking questions and start finding some different solutions for different things. And I think that it's important that everyone's talking about hunkering down, everyone's talking about fear, and everyone's got some issues that really create some negative aspects. I was just reading a book by Trevor Moat. He is a motivational speaker, but he's also one of the performance coaches for some of the largest professional sports teams. And he said one of the most important things is, he said, you don't have to be positive when you're going through things. He said, because that can be incredibly challenging. He said, but what you have to do is not say stupid things out loud. He said, the moment you start saying something out loud that's negative, it has anywhere between 10 to 40 times the strength of saying something positive. And when he grew up in a household, his father was all about being positive. He said he just never understood it. So during a difficult time like this that everyone's going through, you don't have to necessarily be positive. But the moment you start saying negative things out loud, what you start doing is you start absorbing those things. So a lot of the ideas and thoughts that we have, we keep them somewhere in the back of our head. We have these obsessions, these ideas, and these concepts. And so we have these ideas, but the moment we say them out loud, it's basically like we look at them and then we re-ingest them once again.
Hmm.
And if we keep on saying the same things over and over again, we keep on re-ingesting those, then we become what those things are. And that we know after about 90 to 120 days, we have got 85% of our body has got brand new cells. So the number of cells, about 85%, is actually red blood cells. So every 90 to 120 days, those are dying off and they're bringing new ones in. So if you could do something that's value added, or not say stupid things or not say negative things over those periods of time, what you end up doing is you begin to add what you call long-term potentiation, which
Mhm.
means you change whatever your perspective is. And oftentimes what happens is we are living in a golden age right now. We have got more ideas, more concepts, more value. We've got more people doing some amazing things. So if we can be involved in doing things that add value, you don't have to necessarily like them or appreciate them. You just have to do things that you believe are going to be valuable. And especially now with everyone being home, you have to develop a system. And a system, according to Scott Adams, is something that you do every single day that has an increased likelihood of actually granting you success. He says something great, which I really love. He says that goals are for losers. He said systems are for winners. He says because a goal is something you may or may not do someday. He said, but a system is something that you do every single day.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And as far as our language being so powerful to our neurology, there's I warn people, anytime you say something will happen or anything in the future, this is going to happen, whatever it is, better be what you want to happen,
Yes.
because otherwise you're just fueling that. Like I often say with neurology, it's like a garden, and our thoughts are the seeds, and our attention to those thoughts, that's the sunlight and water. So pay attention to what you're paying attention to, because it's the most valuable currency you have.
That's right.
Yeah. So what brought you? Where are you um, in your own state with the current state around you? How have you you know protected yourself against this virus?
I've done the same thing I've always done every day. I have a system. And I have found a cure for for the own disease for me. And that cure is to turn off the news, right?
Perfect.
And so what I don't want to do is I don't get myself involved in all the negativity. It's not that I don't become educated. It's not that I don't read. It's not that I don't pay attention to those things. But the constant stream of information right now that we have coming into our subconsciousness, the constant stream of information is overwhelming. And so I've decided to simply shut that information out. And then I make sure the information that I do get from trusted sources. And for those people that say, you know, there's a bunch of different extremes. And so what you've got to do as an individual is you have to decide what it is that you're going to listen to, because there's some of the biggest problems going on right now is you've got people on one side that are swinging chickens, right? And taking all the supplements they can do. And then you've got everyone else that's completely on the other side trying to take all the medications. And somewhere in the middle is where the answer is. And what you've got to do is you've got to find the thing that is going to be the most efficient for you, that resonates at the highest value for you. The thing you do not want to do is be motivated by fear. I take care of a lot of families and a lot of children. And one of the biggest things that creates a negative impact is if they're motivated by fear. So I have parents ask me, well, what's the golden time? Do we need to take care of this right away? What if we don't do this? And the moment you have those type of drivers is the moment you're way behind the eight ball. You have to be able to go through to every professional that you take a look at, and you have to evaluate them as a plumber. They are simply giving you the information that you as an individual have got to decide on. And the moment you simply go through a really small chute and that information is based on fear, there's a pretty good likelihood that you're going to make decisions down the road that you don't agree with right now. So you've got to be able to collect the information. You've got to say, what do I believe is going to be valuable to me? And so for me, I take a look at basically 6 different areas. That is physical, intellectual, emotional, social, spiritual, and sexual. Those are the causes for every different type of disorder that we have. So what we have to do is you have to go, how do I perceive this information that's coming towards me? Now, there's some information out there that says that 80% of our consciousness is actually subconsciousness. So the information that we bring into us is constantly firing in these networks that we don't necessarily have control of. So the more information that we can bring up that's high value, it can push out the rest of those negative aspects. Now, with the way that the brain works, you can be motivated by things that are positive and also things that are going to be negative. So positive and negative are not necessarily bad things. They're just either side of the same coin. So what you've got to look at is you have to say, am I motivated by things that are positive, or am I motivated by things that are negative? So for example, when I have a kid that comes in and he goes, I don't want to do this, right? I'm not going to do anything you tell me. And I go, well, just as long as you don't smile, you're going to be okay. And the moment he doesn't smile, that tells me that I can use negative reinforcement to motivate him to do the thing that he believes is going to be the most valuable. So for me, I have a daily system. And my system during this period of time and before this time and after this time is basically the same, right? For me, I've got 3 things that are in my system. That is, I get 8 to 10 hours of sleep every single day. I exercise and I drink espresso. Those are the things for me. If I don't have those things, then the rest of my system, all the other things that I'm going to do, I'm out of system. And if I'm out of system, I don't function efficiently. So I take the supplements that I believe are going to be valuable. I get plenty of rest. I make sure I get plenty of minerals. I've got a particular protocol that works for me, and then that changes. So do I take more supplements during this period of time that I would not have taken? Absolutely I do, right? So I take other things that are going to be more supportive, and I make sure that I keep the news off. And frankly, I feel the same as what I've done before. But I also have to assume that I already have the virus, that I'm already having symptomatology. So as long as I stay in the mentality, right? I'm healthy, I'm strong, I'm doing the best that I can. At the end of this, I believe that I'm going to have some significant value. Now you've got people that have got immune systems that are not as strong as that. Some people are much stronger, some people are much weaker. And so you have to be able to get advice from those health professionals that you trust, whether it can be medical doctors or naturopaths or chiropractors, whoever it is. You want to make sure that the system that you have works for you and nobody else. And if you're not motivated by fear and you're getting the information that you need from multiple sources and making the best decision based on that, you're going to be fine. is, take all the things that are coming from the CDC, make sure you're washing your hands, make sure you're staying at home, follow all those things that are going to not make the disease transmit any further than that, but make sure the things that you do are going to be of high value. And that means don't be victimized by the situation. So for me, there's a lot of traumas that occur, and those people are absolutely victimized. And there's no going against that. Those are horrible things that are happening. But my definition of being a victim is you are unable to make a choice to have a different perception. So in a difficult time, make a choice. This is what my perception is. I own what it is that I do. Everything I think, everything I feel, everything I hear, everything I communicate, this is mine, and I own it, and I take full responsibility for those things. All those things out there that are occurring, those are not my responsibility. I'm going to do the safest thing that I can. And the moment you get out of that mentality of being a victim is the moment that you gain control. And when you gain that control, the next things that you can do can be of high value.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we're doing an empowerment series, to give people an empowering perspective so that they can change their perception of things and get out of a victim mentality and get into an empowered, an empowered place. And that is especially true in your rights and your own being, your integrity, you know? So I really appreciate that. Victimhood is choosing a perspective that is basically disempowering, that you do not have the power, that there is nothing you can do. And this is the point of of this entire series, is to bring people ways that they can empower themselves. I mean, for me, if I am hearing if I'm hearing a news source, and the news is very much geared towards a fear-based model, because when people are afraid, more news sells, and they watch more, and they're glued to the TV, and they get more ad revenue and all of that. But when you empower people, it's like, here's what you can do this right now. Then they're not glued to the TV anymore. They're doing the things that they can do to improve their situation, and especially to improve their minds during this.
Yeah. So one of the things when you talk about empowerment that I think has always been very challenging for a lot of people is that it's very difficult to be positive during difficult times. And I don't believe you've got to be positive during difficult times. What you've got to do is you've got to be able to make choices that you believe are valuable.
And
And
don't
the
say
moment,
stupid shit.
yep, that's it. That's it. Out loud. You can say it in your mind, which you can't prevent it from doing. Another thing I want to talk about are feelings, right? For the longest period of time, my impression, I went through some difficult times about 20 years ago, and I went to a counselor to get through a really, really difficult time. And the most important thing that she did for me was she listened to what I had to say, but more importantly, she said, David, go out and do something, right? You've had an issue, you've had a trauma, you've had a loss. Everyone's had a trauma, everyone has had a loss. Now, what are you going to do about it? And when we would sit and when she would make some recommendations, I took her recommendations. And so I became a big brother. I was practicing in Massachusetts at the time. And when I became a big brother, I did something that was outside of myself. And when you do something that's outside of yourself, all those negative feelings, they all went away because I was doing something that was beyond me, that was something valuable for another person. And so when you can go and you can say, hey, listen, this is how I feel about a particular situation. Oftentimes what we do is that we say, well, I want to change how we can feel. Well, in my limited time on this planet, I do not believe we can change how we feel. How we feel is how we feel. I simply define that that's just a first response. So one of the things that people do is they go, well, I feel this way, and then I feel bad about it. If there is a way for you to separate yourself from how it is you feel, feeling is a first response. What you do with it and what you do about it is something completely different. Don't feel bad about how you feel. It's simply a first response. The thing that you do about it is the thing that's valuable. And if you wait just a moment, say, for example, that someone runs you off the road, right? And you get really, really angry for a period of time. Well, what do? If you just sit there and you immediately have a response and you hit them with your car, right? That's an action that you are responsible for. But if you can sit back for just a minute and go, you know what? This guy's probably having a really, really bad day, and you just keep on driving. What you've done is you've taken a feeling and you've made it into an action, and you've been able to move forward. And in every situation, you have the ability to respond with some sort of action. So don't spend time trying to change the way that you feel. How you feel is a first response. What you do with that is what's going to be valuable.
Absolutely.
That's where you get the control. That's where you get the control.
Yeah, there's somebody who told me that nobody can make you feel a certain way. The fact is, if I punch you in the face, you're gonna feel a certain way.
Yes.
I'm gonna make you feel that way. Now it's up to you. Now setting the trajectory after that, and and my experience, the choice of what thoughts I put my attention on changed the trajectory of my feelings. And that's where mastery comes in, of taking responsibility, empowering yourself, and doing what you can do to affect how you're feeling in this place.
So one of the things that I want to talk about when we were talking about this prior to getting onto Zoom is it's incredibly important for you to make decisions. And one of the things that I find helpful not to say is, I don't know. The moment you say, I don't know, is the moment that someone else starts making decisions for you. And I don't know about you, but I don't want anyone making decisions for me. I want to take complete responsibility for my decisions, because then I control the outcome. I control the story flow of what it is that's going to happen. So one of the things I like to talk about is that when you're in a situation, give yourself 3 different options to respond to a particular question. Either say yes or no, or I haven't decided yet. And I haven't decided yet is incredibly powerful, because what it is that you're doing is you're saying, listen, this is an incredibly challenging time, right? This is a difficult time for me to get through. This is how I feel about this thing, but this is the action I'm going to perform based on how it is that I believe, for me, is the thing that becomes the most valuable. So the moment I respond with an answer and I say yes, I have control over my future responses. I have control over the things that I'm going to do. When I say no, I have more control, because no, I believe, is probably the most powerful word that we can use, because when we say no, we have control over our world. And when we have control over our world, we have internal integrity, we have the responses. But the moment we say, I don't know, even when you say the word, I don't know, right? That is completely disempowering. What it does is it removes the value. But when you go, I haven't decided yet, wow, that's helpful, because what you're saying is, I can't say yes and I can't say no because I don't have enough information to make a decision. And that's a preamble to I haven't decided yet. When you go, I can't say yes and I can't say no because I don't have enough information. And because I don't have enough information, what I'm going to say is, I haven't decided yet. And when you use that term, that is incredibly powerful, because what will happen is people won't push you for a response. Because unfortunately, in the world that we currently live in, we've got 2 different colors. You pick one color, and as soon as you pick that one color, you have a certain bias. But you pick another color, and you have another political bias. So it's very difficult, because there's 2 different colors, but we're multicolored. We've got multi-senses and multi-beliefs. So let's do the things that we have value. So if you feel a certain way, that's how you feel. There's no denying that. But what you want to do is you want to make the decision that you believe is going to be the most valuable. And in that situation, that can be a yes, that can be a no. But when you haven't decided, you say, I haven't decided yet because I don't have enough information. So I can go with that all day long. And the person goes, well, you need to decide right now. I'm not going to decide right now because I don't have enough information. What that does You know, I've never taken really any personal defense courses, but the things that I've read is that when you're in a defensive situation, you're being attacked. The biggest thing that you can do is create time and distance between your attacker. And I find that that's a really helpful statement, because yes is definitive, no is definitive, and I haven't decided yet is also very definitive.
Mm.
So I would say to those listeners out there, don't respond with I don't know. That statement is disempowering. That takes your power away from you, and that also takes your ability for you to make future decisions that are going to be valuable. And who doesn't want to make a valuable decision? You know, people get trapped into, another thing is, when you decide, you question, did I make a right decision or a wrong decision? I don't clarify those things for my own self, because I find those too confusing. You simply make a decision with the information you have and you move forward. I personally don't think that you can make a wrong decision. I think the moment you don't decide is the moment someone has control over your decisions and over how you feel and over your perceptions. So decide on your own terms. Be motivated by hope, not by fear. Be motivated. Hope can be sometimes a very difficult word. So maybe let's exchange that word. Instead of hope, let's call it value. That's not a valuable decision for me. Why not? I don't have any value in that. I don't believe that is valuable for me.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, those words that they ring out loud, for whatever reason, whatever resonance or whatever neuropsychological benefit those have, you guarantee yourself a much more consistent future where you become the driver of what it is that you believe you need to do at that time.
I love all of that, man. It is so good to have you just get on a roll, and it's amazing. Thank you. With those words, with I haven't decided yet, and and the idea of there is no wrong decision. I love that. I actually say everything has been, is, and will continue to happen perfectly. Always has, always will. Because in the past, it was the present and it was happening perfectly. And in order for you to be here where you are at this moment, things had to happen perfectly. And in the past, it was the present and it was going to continue. So it's always the case. And we can know that. And there is no wrong decision. There's just giving that decision, whether you're taking the decision or you're giving it away. I appreciate that so much, my man. So what other tools do you have for people to use at this time where there's a lot of uncertainty and loss of control? And I think those are the ingredients of fear.
I think the most important thing is that you need to create a daily system for you that you do of physical activities or mental activities that are going to be the most important. Because when you create a daily system, what happens is, say for example, I've decided I get 8 to 10 hours of sleep. I wake up at 8:30 a.m. I drink a glass of water, right? Really important, because when you drink a glass of water, all of a sudden you get hydrated. And then you sit down and have whatever kind of food it is you want to. And then you talk to the loved ones that you need to, because you need to get that social interaction, and you need to get that value for you if you need personal interaction. Now, the people that are succeeding the most are the introverts, right? The introverts are just happy to be left alone. So for those of you that are extroverts, leave the introverts alone. Let them process through the information that they need to. So for the extroverts that are out there that need to get on all the social media, that need to be contacting everyone, then that's what you need to do. But for the people that need to be left alone, leave them alone. This is a great time for them to regenerate themselves, but you have to get a system, right? Which means that for all the different aspects of who you are as a person, you've got plenty of time. And I think when you have that system, the most important thing, we'll not say the most important thing, but we'll say the thing we're talking about right now that I think is germane is eliminate the things that don't have value for you. Because what you've got right now is the people ask, and they'll call up to the office, they'll say, what do I need to take? How much vitamin C do I need to take? What do I need to do for my family? How many milligrams of this? What about this? What do I need to do? Where do I need to go? Where do I need to get my information? So one of my first responses that really does help people get out of fear is eliminate the things that don't have value. So a lot of people right now, what are they doing? They're cleaning their homes. But if you're just going out there and physically cleaning your home, maybe there's more to it. What else about you doesn't have value anymore, right? So if you've got a physical home and you're cleaning up, that's a great start. But what about intellectually? What are you spending your time doing, right? You're spending time just playing video games and not doing things that are valuable. So what do? Get rid of some of those things, right? You don't have to read 30 good books, but maybe you need to get rid of some things that you're doing that are no longer valuable. What about emotions? What kind of emotions do you need to get rid of that are no longer valuable? Whatever kind of social aspects do you need to get rid of? What kind of sexual things do you need to get rid of that are no value? So when I look at the things that my system is the physical, intellectual, emotional, social, spiritual, sexual. Don't get so overwhelmed with what you need to do. Instead, eliminate the things that are no longer in value. When I did my undergraduate degree, I think this is probably the best story. I was doing my undergraduate degree in business, and there was a guy named AC Grace. And AC Grace made suits for men. And so he came into my college classroom and he said, if you can imagine as though I've got 10 suits out here, there's a couple different ways you can choose what your favorite one is. If I ask you to pick out your favorite suit, it's going to take you a long time to do it. So instead, let's short circuit that. Here's 10 suits. What I want you to do now is get rid of 5 of those suits that you hate. So within a couple of seconds, you've got 5 suits left. He said, now get rid of 3 of those suits. Really easy to get rid of 3 of those suits. And the 2 suits that are left over, those are your 2 favorite suits. And it took you maybe a quarter of the time, maybe a tenth of the time, because you eliminated the things that are no longer of value. So when you look around your room, you look around your own mind, you think about your thoughts and your ideas and your concepts, eliminate the things that you don't believe are beneficial anymore. And when you can remove those, the things of true value, those will be the things that will actually show up. I think it's a really efficient and a quick way to be able to say, what is most important to me? Instead of trying to do all of these different things, eliminate the things that no longer have value.
This is like one of the best interviews I've ever had. I think you're just on a roll with like tools that really help. And I mean, I don't even have questions for you because it's like, that was perfect, man. Like, eliminate the things of that don't bring value. There is no right or wrong. There's things that are valuable and things that are not. And if everything takes up space. So the things that are valuable, we hold on to. The things that are not, eliminate those. And that makes room for the things that are.
Yes.
And I love your system about go for the things that are not your favorite. Go for the things that do not bring you value first, and eliminate those, and you'll be left with the ones that you want to hold on to. So this entire scenario, what the world is going through right now, really gives us an opportunity to take a step back to look at what's in our lives. And I think what you just said is so powerful in helping us to clear things up and to focus on what we actually value.
It is. So what we need to do is we need to continue beyond this time. Because oftentimes what happens during traumatic times is what we're going through the situation, we keep our system while the trauma is still going on. But when the trauma goes away, we go back to the things that are not so efficient. So if we can make this time a time of high value, but when it's all over, which it will be because everything has its time frame, traumas come and traumas go. I remember when I went through one trauma, it was incredibly difficult. I didn't ever want to forget the person that I became, the things that I did. And so you have to remember that will you be the same person after this, or will you go back to the lowest common denominator of who you were? And if you want to do that, that's on you. And frankly, many people, unfortunately, in the world, once the trauma is gone, will go back to the lowest common denominator. If this is truly a great time when we've got information and insight and wisdom, and we get through the other side of this, can we become more efficient? Can we add more value? Or will this just be another trauma that we go through that we don't learn a long-term lesson for, and we don't become what I call a better version of ourselves that goes for a long-term potentiation, just not survival. Unfortunately, there will be people who will not survive this. And I can't imagine how they must feel and how their families must feel. And we have to be there to be able to support them. But there's going to be a much larger portion of us that moves forward. We need to remember the traumas that we've gone through, not just as a viral pandemic, but who we are as people can become a better version when we decide to do so. What portion of the population will do so? I remember, and someone will have to fact check me on this, has been 30 years ago, but one of my psychology professors told me that only 20% of the people actually reach full psychological maturity. I don't exactly know what that means, but what is the proportion of people that do have full psychological maturity? And let's extend that beyond psychological maturity. Let's extend that to human maturity, where we believe the things we're doing have value. Do we do things that are motivated by hope, or do we go to the lowest common denominator? What percentage of the people are in the world are not having to struggle, right? Let me ask you a question here. If you were to take a look at the top 1% of the people on the planet, how much money do you believe you would need to make to be in the top 1% of earners on the planet? The top 1%. What do you think that number is?
Man, ridiculous. Billions.
No, $34,000 is all you need to make to be in the top 1% of earners on the planet. So for the majority of us living in the United States, we're already at the 1%. We're already functioning at that high level. Frankly, you don't need a lot of money to become efficient.
Wow. All right. So cultivating motivation.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about building these systems and then holding them throughout. So even
Yes.
after the trauma leaves and it goes back to normal life, how do we, what's the best way to cultivate that motivation, being motivated by value and hope, rather than being motivated by this time?
So there are what I call the three voices that we all hear in our heads, right? And this goes for the non-psychotics. So there's one voice that we hear in our head, which is a stream of consciousness. And that is simply all the data that we are collecting on a momentary basis. This is green, this is blue, this is yellow. It doesn't have any value, but it's simply data that's coming in. And these are the things that our brain can obsess upon. So this one stream of consciousness is simply that. It's simply data points that are coming in. The other thing we have is a voice of value, right? Which means that the information we have, we can say, is this valuable or is this not valuable? And if we're conscious and we're aware, right, we simply eliminate the things that don't have value. And there's a third voice called the voice of certainty. And that voice, I'm not saying you actually hear a voice, it's just an example, a very simple way to explain it, that you've got a stream of consciousness that's simply data. You've got a voice of value that says, is this something I want to hold on to, or is this something I want to eliminate? And it's much easier to say, I want to eliminate this. I want to eliminate what it is that doesn't have value. And the third voice, which is a voice of certainty, that voice of certainty is the voice that mothers hear, right? Mothers are the glial cells. Women are the glial cells because frankly, they make all the people. So that voice of certainty is the thing that you believe about your family, about your creation, about the things that are going to be the most significant to you. So eliminate the things that don't have value, listen to the things that do have value, and listen to that voice of certainty. And what you have to do is you have to make an actionable choice, which means there's something that you have to do with that information. If you have the information and you do nothing with it, it wasn't really important you even garnered the information. But now we have so much information of things we can make choices with. So you simply make the best choices with those information. And after we move on from this trauma that's occurring and everyone gets well, and the world's going to be different after this, right? There's going to be increased sensitivities because we've gone through losses. What we have to do is, how did I act appropriately for my own perception during this trauma? And what did I do that was inappropriate? And the more things that I do are appropriate and valuable, those are the things that you carry forward. The other things, you've got to leave those behind. Just like when you're 16, you probably can't wear that same shirt anymore, so you get rid of it. That same thought that you had that's no longer valuable, you want to get rid of it. And every time what you want to do is you want to add to what your system is. And you want to add to what Scott Adams calls a talent stack, which means that you pick up particular skills and ideas that make you more valuable to yourself and to those people around you. And the more things you have in your talent stack, the more efficient you become. And nobody has a talent stack like you do. Each individual has a particular talent stack. The more ideas, the more concepts, the more education that you garner on that, the greater value you have to the people that you serve in whatever position you're at. Whether you're a brother, a sister, a father, an uncle, a coach, a doctor, a lawyer, it doesn't matter who you are. You have to take those values, create that talent stack to move on to the next level. Because all the people that I've talked to that have had any moniker of success always want to be creating something else. So a friend of mine goes to school at USC and he becomes an engineer, and he really likes being an engineer. But he said, you know what I really want to be? I want to be a lawyer. So he goes back to school and then he becomes a lawyer. And then he becomes a lawyer for a period of time. And he's like, I really want to focus on being a patent attorney. So he becomes a patent attorney. And the last time I talked to him, he goes, yeah, I like being the patent attorney, but what I really want to be is an inventor. So that for me is a great example of people that continually want to evolve. Or you can devolve, right? You can have the traumas, you can have the losses, and you can say, this is too much for me, I can't do this. I'm going to drop a couple levels. I'm going to do something, right? I'm going to do negative things. I'm going to get addicted to whatever this thing is. And my life is going to go down to the tubes based on the experiences that I have. And what I find interesting is that you have choices. When you take a look at twins in particular, oftentimes twins may look almost exactly alike, but the choices that they make may be completely different because they're trying to create their own identities. So you'll have these extreme activities where one will be extreme and one will be conservative. Somewhere in the middle is where the answer is. So I think as people are going through whatever their choices are, realize that you have got responsibility for everything you think, everything you feel, everything you do, everything and every action that you perform. And if you don't want to do it, you don't want to be defined by that, do something different and create something. The thing for me that makes all humans unique, the thing that almost combines us as glial cells and connecting cells is we love to create. We just love making stuff, right? A lot of people play the guitar, right? I learned the guitar to play one song, Smoke on the Water. And as soon as I did, I was done, right? Beyond that talent, I'm never gonna be a guitarist, right? When I was a kid, I used to play the piano and I got to play the Blue Danube. I'm never gonna get any better, right? Is that in my talent stack? It's in my very, very small talent stack, right? So when I was a kid, I used to like doing leather work. So several years ago, I picked up leather work again, and I started making belts and making all sorts of things. But I think one of the people that I respect the most is my embroiderer. And I know this is a really odd statement, but I just love this story. This probably is about 7 or 8 years ago. And so in the office, I got my shirts embroidered. And so when I went up to the shop, I talked to this old Indian gentleman, who's probably in his mid-60s. And I always like talking to people because I find their stories incredibly interesting and valuable. And I said, so how'd you get into embroidery? He goes, well, he said, I went to medical school. And he said, I really wanted to be a cardiac surgeon. So I became a cardiac surgeon, and then I got into trauma surgery. And I said, and you're doing embroidery? He said, yep, I sure am. I said, so what happened? He said, well, he said, I got tired of being called at 3 o'clock in the morning to do these surgeries with someone who had one foot in a casket and the other foot in a banana peel. He said, I just didn't want to do it anymore. He said, and I always did embroidery when I was a kid, and I absolutely love it. So I left cardiac trauma surgery, and I like doing embroidery just like I've always done. So I think when you get to a level like that and you're functioning at such a high level and you do the things that is valuable to you, regardless of what the money looks like or regardless of what people think about you, when you can do that and you get this intrinsic sense of who you are as an individual on the planet and you are content, man, I don't think there's anything that beats that. So at the end of the day, if you love embroidery, do embroidery. Do you have to be great at it? No, you don't. You just have to perceive that it has value. You have to feel as a human that you are creating something for you that is valuable.
That's absolutely right. And creating something for yourself that's valuable, and creating value, just period. That's what our entire world is about, you know. Well, but the reason I'm doing these interviews is to create value for people. The reason I wrote my book was to create value for people, was to give people new perspectives, and also to create value for myself, you know, to stack up my own talent stack, you know, to be able to affect more positive change in the world. And when we're in this situation, there's a whole lot of fear of social discord, and people have true actual needs that are happening right now. And it's really cool to just see people coming together and helping each other with true value right off the bat. Just like, you need help, I got you. Here's what I can do. And my friend Ron Lynch has done an amazing job creating IntelliHealth for exactly that. IntelliHealth for exactly that. And creating that value for others, creating that value for yourself. Very, very powerful. So, David, where are you located?
I'm in Carrollton, Texas, just
And
about 20 minutes north of Dallas.
and what do you do? You have a clinic.
Yeah, I take care of newborns to 90s, and so I've got several certifications. I graduated from chiropractic school back in 1998, and then I did several fellowships in neurodevelopmental disorders and functional neurology, and took some advanced courses. And I'm constantly trying to be educated to find the next system that I can use, that I can help people become more efficient with who they are and help them become the best version of who it is that they perceive that they need to be, not who I believe they need to be. So I spend a lot of time talking to people about what it is they're looking for, whether it's health issues or it's cognitive issues or it's mental things or it's motion, or they need to walk better, or they need to have their baby so the baby can breastfeed better, or they want their child to be able to crawl, they want their child to be able to walk. So for me, it's a general practice where I take care of a lot of different conditions, all the way from newborns that have got some challenges. I work with several athletes. I've got some technical tools that I use to be able to evaluate it. But at the end of the day, I'm helping people become a better version of themselves. And so I take more courses. And so right now, I'll be finished with my master's degree as a clinical neuroscientist in December. And then we'll see what kind of educational course comes up next. But it really depends on what's going to work the best for the patients that I take care of. So I've been able to have some really great relationships. So I've got tools like balance tracking systems, I've got synaptic systems, I've got I think brain tap, and I've got shed light, and I've got all kinds of other tools that I believe that can objectify the type of findings that people need, because I think it's incredibly important as a clinician is that you need really good bedside manner, you need good observations and good analog tools, and then you also need those digital computerized tools to help make sure that those things become accurate. And then we need to work with manufacturers to make sure the systems we're looking at are the most efficient for patients. So for me, it's really helping people identify where they are physically, intellectually, emotionally, socially, spiritually, and sexually, giving them the tools that they need, and then also creating a network of other specialists that can help them get towards that direction. So I work with internal medicine and pediatrics and nursing and psychiatry and all those other groups, because we have an interdisciplinary aspect of who we are. And whatever your specialty is, do what it is you need to do, but make sure you provide a network of those people around you, because the people that we see, they need solutions. They need tools that they can use that they perceive as valuable. And frankly, if you want to be integrative and if you want to be interdisciplinary, you can't be selfish. So you've got to be able to take the people that come into you and refer off to you. So that's what I do. You know, I like to play my part in helping them get to a certain place, and then I refer them to the people that they need to get additional support. So I think at the end of it, I get to do what it is that I want to do, and they get what they need. You know, one of my favorite group of people to take care of is newborns, right? Because they're so fresh, their brains are so great, and you could do some really small things to help them improve. So some of the courses I've taken in childhood neurodevelopmental disorders and using primitive reflexes and using other activities for Parkinson's, it's all the same, right? It's looking at people who they are through their entire aspect, their physical, intellectual, emotional, social, spiritual aspect. And as clinicians, if we don't ask those questions, sometimes we can rob those people of things that they actually need, right? I don't need to be an ear specialist, ask about the ears, right? I don't need to be a neurosurgeon, ask certain questions. But what we do have to do is be available for the people that we take care of that can help them on their journey to get to the people that they need so they can become a better version of who they are as an individual. So that's a lot of what it is that I do. So I work Monday through Thursday from 10 to 7. And it's a great life. I've been in practice for 22 years, and it just gets better and better all the time, because there are things that I learn, right? And there's systems and tools that I gain, but there's also a lot of systems and things that I get rid of. So it's really important to be a good observer, to have basic abilities to understand blood pressure and heart rate, be able to look at eyes and ears and nose and throat and cardiac system, and then be able to have technical tools to be able to assess some of those things, and then create a really good network of professionals around you that you can refer to help support them. And especially during this time here, because we've got a lot of people that are not working. We've got a lot of people that are working unlimited schedules. So it's really important after this period of time to be even more integrative and more interdisciplinary than we've ever been before.
Yeah. I love you. You had the GLIA conference not too long ago. Invited me to speak at that, and that was so powerful. Bringing connectors, connecting people, connecting ideas, and referring out to people who need who can value from what other people have. And that's where like not being selfish is so powerful. And the bottom line of what I want to highlight of what you said is that what you do, everything that you're doing is to help people to become a better version of themselves. And if
That's right.
that means, you know, if that means becoming a leather embroider, you know, that's totally cool. That's where what you value. So super appreciate it, my man. Where can people find more about you?
So you can connect with me at connect@Rosenthal Method. That's Rosenthal method.com. I am in Carrollton, Texas. My office number is 972-322-7607. And my website is drfunctionalneurology.com, and also rosenthalmethod.com here in Carrollton, Texas.
Nice. And are you taking clients via Zoom or anything of that sort?
I am. It's a combination of all the things that people feel comfortable. You know, we're not treating really any kind of, at this particular time, we're not really dealing in the office with any sort of any sort of chronic issues, or any kind of wellness care. All those people have really transferred over to Zoom, and there are. I am making home visits, making sure that I've got my N95 mask on and all clean, because there are some people that've got some really tough situations, but they can't get out of the house. So I am making home visits, and for the other people, we're making sure that we maintain social distancing and gloves and all that here in the office. So we're doing our best to make sure that we can help people become better versions of themselves online, in person, or on the phone.
Perfect. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate your time. And I'd like to thank your jacket for also attending this.
It's always around, my man. And you'll never embroider it. I promise you that.
That's right. That's right.
All right, my man. Thank you so much.
I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, sir.